George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation. Pleased to be joined by Charles Garland. He is a candidate for the 16th Legislative District of Onondaga County, but that's a unique district because, Charles, why?
It is out of the 17 districts, the 16th is the only one that's entirely inside the city. There's 27,000 registered voters in each one. That would mean in all of the other ones, they straddle Syracuse and other areas, like, Syracuse and Lakeland, Syracuse and Salve, Syracuse and Geddes, Syracuse and Jamesville. So that would mean, technically, when you think about voting and voting blocks, technically that would make the 16th district the strongest voting block, the strongest one out of all of the legislative areas, because we have 27,000 voters in one block. That would mean basically we could swing any election, any legislation. But the problem is, and most people understand this, we have the worst crime, we have the worst infrastructure, we have the worst healthcare chronic problems. And so that's why a group of people asked me to run. As I always explain to people, yes. Okay, go ahead. I see you.
No. I was gonna say, so just clarify. So you're running as what party are you representing, Charles?
Democrat. I've always been a Democrat. Now, let me give everybody, history. All right. I ran back in 2019.
Okay.
So that's what happened. I was asked to run, but it's interesting. I was asked to run after, everybody else had already started, basically Vernon Williams and Carmen Harlow.
Right.
I've always been active. I've always tried to do as much as I can. Most people know that. I've been very vocal about things, writing commentary and other things. In the past, I have been asked to run for office, but anyone that lives in the city, George, they understand. If you have a family, raising your children should be your single focus, and that's anybody that lives in the heart of the city. So that was my single focus. But when the last one graduated college, I ran into Willie Morgan, and he asked me. He said, "Hey, Charles, how'd you like to be a little bit more active?" Naively, I thought that meant knocking on doors, making phone calls. So the next thing I know, I was in church. And I ran into somebody, and they said, "Hey, we heard you're running for office." And I said, "Oh, well, what office is that?" And then they mentioned, the county legislature. And I said, "Well, nobody's asked me." And then they said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Well, let me ask my wife."
So Vernon has the seat now, but you have the seat. But then, so where are we with this? So what's going on here? Explain where we are here.
All right. Vernon is the incumbent. What happened was, his mother, Monica, she had the position back in 2019. She stepped down. So Vernon was nominated, and that's, that's a natural thing. So he was running in Carmen Harlow. I came in late, but I was asked to run by ex-president of the Syracuse Common Council, ex-president of the NAACP, and some of the local nonprofits in the area and other things. So it was a wonderful experience getting out there, speaking with people. I only lost by, it was around 28 to 30 votes, but a lot of people, they either don't know or they forgot, because the Post-Standard did run a story. They handed out the wrong ballots in 3 different polling sites. Now, what's interesting about that is a week went by and they did not say anything. I found out about it and I called the newspaper, and so they contacted the election board, and then everything came out and they started cleaning it up, so to speak. So they said that they reconciled everything, but as I explained to them, if this had happened in Skaneateles, in Fayetteville, or in Cicero, and a week went by where they handed out the wrong ballots and no one said anything, as I explained to our election commissioners, the same thing that happened to the election commissioners in Oneida County would have happened to them. But once again, because it happened in a marginalized area, no one said anything. So as I told them, when I lost, I accepted it. I contacted, Pamela Hunter, everyone that's in charge. I said, I am registered Democrat. I am a team party member, and I'll accept it. But I did say, if we don't see anything positive happening in the next couple of years, I will run again. And basically, because of what happened, anyone that ran, Missy Ross, Ahmad Rahim, anyone, I told them they owed it to themselves to run, but more importantly, the people that voted for them, whose votes might not have counted. Because believe it or not, if you follow me on online, They handed out the wrong ballots the election also. I was right there. It was amazing. But what happened was I lost and called Vernon, conceded. This time with the primary, I won. Okay, I won the primary, so
as the
I am,
Democratic nominee, and so
yes,
Vernon appears on the ballot as the Working Families under the Working Families Party.
yes. Unlike me calling, conceding, he's going to continue, and that's well within his rights.
I see. So he's still campaigning for the seat. That's why I was like, wait, they're both Democrats. Well, no, they're not. But okay.
Yes, yes.
I'm glad you clarified that. We should also say, Charles, you're also the owner, proprietor of Garland Brothers Funeral Home, which has a particular distinction. What is that distinction?
That distinction is we are the oldest minority-owned business in Central New York. Also, the Northeast, when you consider our Albany branch. We opened up in Albany in 1929. We opened up in Syracuse in 1936. Anyone that knows us, especially the old timers, as we call them, they would know we were on the east side, 813 East Fayette Street, right where Kennedy Square was. When they put in 690 in 81, we lost our funeral home, we lost our land, eminent domain. But more importantly, it destroyed the whole area. A lot of people don't understand. You had families, generational families. Our cousins, well, everyone on my mother's side and my father's side of the family, George, lived right there in that area. 2-block radius, not even. My cousins lived right next to the armory. Aunt Lola, she had a beauty salon across the street. So what happened is when that happened, it just scattered everyone in our family, but not just ours and others. So you lose that, cohesiveness, that structure of, knowing generationally, knowing your cousins, knowing other generations, your aunts and uncles. Uncle Ben's the only one that stayed here. And you have to remember, this happened in the late 60s. This was after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, after the riots, after white flight. It took us 3 years, actually, to relocate. We didn't have find a place until 1972, and that's where we're at right now. But it's humbling, it's gratifying being able to serve everybody.
Oldest Black-owned business. And that would even precede Eric Simmons, right? Because he came, the family business 41, I believe, right? Is that the year? So you were even before Eric Simmons. So wow.
1936. Yep.
Wow.
But as I said, and in Albany, it's 1929. So remember, we got that centennial coming up. So we're really looking forward to that.
And that's outstanding. And it's we'll talk about the race, and one of the campaigns, we'll talk about 81, because that you've been, Vernon came after you for your stance on 81. As a matter of fact, let's talk about 81 since we're talking about it.
Yes.
So
okay.
You have been criticized, and Vernon's statement said this, that he's the current legislator. And what did he say? So here's what happened. A group of folks, and you had a press conference proposing, rather than a community grid, that there'll be an elevated, even higher skyway, which would in fact lessen the traffic, that would lessen the traffic impact, particularly in the South Side area, the area that you represent. So here's what Vernon said, and I quote, "It is disgraceful to use," so they wanted to name it the Harriet Tubman Bridge, right? And
well,
so,
it's the Harriet Tubman Freedom Memorial Bridge, named by the Harriet Tubman family. Yes.
So he says, it's disgraceful that to use such an iconic woman and her legacy to continue to harm a community. Charles Garland is clearly not listening to the constituents of the 16th district. He's not been able to identify any benefits to this community from the Sky Bridge option. In fact, a simple look into the DEIS Chapter 5 shows that the removal of the viaduct significantly reduces the traffic volume in the community from the current 90,000 cars per day. His remarks are dangerous, irresponsible, and uninformed. And in his own remarks at the press conference, he put the needs of the town of Salina over the people of the 16th district. I will never sell out my own community like that ever. He's basically saying you're a sellout.
Yep, I believe that's from the Urban CNY, and the press conference that he is referring to is when I won the primary. All right, we were we were celebrating, and I received a call. I received a call that they were having a press conference in Wilson Park, and they asked me if I would like to be there specifically because of my stance on moving everybody out of Pioneer Homes, McKinley Manor, and Central Village. Anyone that watched that, that's what I discussed. Now, when I got there, I didn't know who else was going to be there, but other people were there. It was Alfonso Davis, and a couple representatives from Salina.
Right. Yeah,
So,
this was in the urban CNY. You're right. Yes.
yeah, right. So they said their part, and I said mine. Anybody that listened to that knows I talked about how wrong it was moving everybody out of Pioneer Homes, McKinley Manor, Central Village without any plan, just giving them vouchers. That's what I
mean
discussed.
for the Blueprint 15 project.
Well, as I said, I was called to come there, and that's what I talked about. The only thing I referenced as far as what they were talking about, and I was specific. I said people have the right to deserve to be listened to, and as mature adults, that's what we're supposed to do, and that was it. Now, before Vernon, before the CNY or the urban CNY thing, a lot of people forget, Mayor Walsh. They were in Wilson Park right after that, and basically they could have named everybody else, but they threw me under the bus, and that's okay. I spoke with the mayor about that, and I wrote a little story. I said, look, this is politics. It's understandable. They're running as the independents. Mayor Walsh, he cannot directly attack, Bay, right? Because he goes after Khalid, then let's be honest. That's basically, people can spin that as a racial thing, and that's the reality of it, white man going after somebody black. But he can go after Khalid indirectly using Vernon going after me. Now, as far as 81, it's a very simple thing, all right? The reality is the 81 viaduct that is currently there represents the ills, the wrong done to us. The people
to you, right? To your family.
Yes. So, and this is what makes me smile. No one has a right to tell me that they suffered more than us or anyone that actually lived there. So, but it's a simple logic thing, George. Now, and when you think about it, they say that they have these altruistic motions and motives. Motives. They're moving us out of that area because of this elevated highway and the traffic, the toxic pollutants, carcinogens, the ozone, all that other stuff. So they're saying that's why they're moving us out of that area. But they don't tell you that they're going to move us out, but they're going to redirect that same, all of that, traffic, pollution, toxic carcinogens. They're going to redirect that right back into the south side. That's why I sent you a map, because but that's the formula that they always use. Displace us, gentrify the area, and then move the problem that they say they're saving us from right back into the 16th. Because
do you support the community grid?
Of course I do. And that's something else. See, now this is what really amazes me, because all you have to do is go back to anything that I've said. Number one, anyone that knows me knows I'm not about objects. I'm about people. I'm about causes. So I've always said, you can look at my Facebook where I said that at one time, right? And I felt that Mayor Walsh and new chief of police and the Ryan McMahon represent the best chance that we have for economic movement, economic development, and things like that. So, and you won't find anything in there where I say that I don't want just the grid. Well, right. So the main thing is we want the grid, but it has to be supplemented. The only way, and this is what I asked them, what is your plan to keep all of these cars? Because that's what's going to happen. And it's a very logical thing. They're going to redirect this traffic. It's just, but they never talk about that. They're going to redirect this traffic down to ground level, right? They're talking about 20 to 30,000 cars, right? They're not going to be driving through Oakwood Cemetery, George. We all know that. But this is what they do. They're going to regentrify this area. They're going to make it nice because they want to expand the SUNY campus.
So what do you want? So Charles Garland, candidate
yes.
for Onondaga County Legislature, 16th District, Charles, and of course, Garland Brothers. Charles, what do you want to do then? Because do you support this bridge? And I'm not clear about that either.
All right. What I support is any conveyance that redirects. Okay, nobody. in our area, George, and it's very simple, right? It's primary and the African American. All right. We have the highest rates of asthma, the highest rates of COPD, the highest ER visits for respiratory illness, right? We've got the highest comorbidities. They're doing this in the middle of a COVID pandemic, which is a respiratory illness.
Right.
So, right. So right now I'm looking at, and this is what, I even contacted them, the EPA, by law, they're supposed to like review any environmental impact study. When we had this latest meeting at Martin Luther King with some of the representatives there, and I asked them, I said, well, do you know if the EPA is actually doing the study? They said no. So I've contacted the EPA because, as I said, they marginalize us, and they've been doing this forever, and you know that. All right. So as I said, they're going to redirect all of this traffic. The Martin Luther King roundabout, that wasn't supposed to be there at first. I mean, it's just that simple. I sent you something. It's the initial conceptual plan.
Right.
That was signed. Right. Yes. Right. And it says county and city. That was signed by Eileen Moore, I believe September 6th, 2018, where you open it up, it gives the options with the the viaduct and also the grid. It says the grid was supposed to go from Erie all the way to Colvin. That's what it was. All right. Plain and simple. Now, when I mention that to them, of course, they're going to say, well, it ended right at Colvin, but it extended to Martin Luther King. To which I tell them, look at the videos that you have. You've got this video about the grid where it shows the traffic coming in on 81, but ending right at Martin Luther King, not at Colvin. But that's because originally it was supposed to end at Colvin, but a third party interrupted or intervened. All right. Because they didn't want the traffic or the roundabout right there interfering with traffic going up into the university area. And that's all this is. The bottom line, plain and simple, SUNY they've been wanting to expand their downtown campus. They already have, all right, and let me know if I'm wrong. They already have Madison Towers. They have Jefferson Towers. They have Harrison Towers.
I didn't know they had Madison Towers. I don't think they have. Do they?
Yes.
I know they have Harrison and Townsend, the other one.
I'll send you the paperwork. Yes, Madison, Jefferson, Harrison, and Townsend. When you look at a map, the next natural progression is right across the street. I sent you a map. It shows their actual, and it's amazing, when a lot of people look at the map and they'll say, where's that from? Well, it's from their website. If you look, the only missing piece, it's in the lower right-hand corner. I sent you another article. Yeah.
So let me just, but I'm still not clear.
Yes.
Whether you said you support any conveyance that reduces the traffic in the community.
Right.
Are you in support of this Sky Bridge Harriet Tubman thing?
Oh, yes, of course I am. Right. Okay. Of course I am. Because remember, any conveyance doesn't have to look like this, right? It doesn't have to look like this, extravagant bridge. But any conveyance that keeps this out of our area, where you have the most chronically ill people, us, once again, you have the highest respiratory illnesses, highest asthma, our children, they go to the hospital 4 times as much. All of this is right there. It's all been documented. And this is a respiratory thing, George. And we're talking about redirecting this traffic down at ground level right into the African-American community. The same traffic, the same pollutants that they say that they're saving us from in an area that they're gentrifying, they're putting right back into our area, and they can't deny it.
All right, Charles. So, and of course, what the mayor says, and you disagree with the mayor who says it's been studied and proven that it doesn't have the impact that you say it does. That's what he told me last week.
Well, of course, look, at the Martin Luther King School, I talked to the New York State, guys work for DLT. Even they admitted it. I was right there in a group. They admitted that there's going to be more traffic, which means more emissions, more pollutants.
So they told you that, but did they put that in writing on paper? They haven't. Okay, no. So then what are we talking? If what they whisper to you isn't the same thing as what they're putting on the paper.
Well, it isn't whispered. I got them to admit it. They hemmed and hawed, they stuttered and
But
stamped.
did they? It's not on any written document, though.
Right. But this is why the EPA, well, look, when somebody wants to do something, George, they're always going to see, because look, we already know right now. That's why they call it, it's the draft. But we all see it right now. The, DOT, they're even coming out saying that it's flawed. They're even coming out saying, it's flawed. We've got to relook it, reanalyze. And that's my point. That's why I asked them. It's the EPA's responsibility, because as far as the DOT, they're really not going to look into the toxins emissions. The EPA, they're the ones that have to do it for us.
Charles, what are the people saying? You say Vernon says you're not listening to the constituents. Do your constituents agree with you?
Yes. Well, I'm sure you understand when people have the full picture and all of the information. And that's the thing. Most people don't even realize that they're going to redirect this traffic into the area. Well, most people have no idea.
But this is what you said, the full information, but the DOT isn't saying what you say they said to you. So,
well, has anybody really read the DIS? What is it? 20,000 pages, right? Remember, the devil is hidden in the details, right? Unless we actually look at it and break it down. So they do say, right, that traffic will be redirected, right? Of course, they're just going to say that. They're not going to talk about, the levels of ozone and things like that, because that's not what they want. Because remember, this all goes back to 2005, George. All right. This goes back to, it's a study that was done, rethinking I-81. Those of us that remember, right, and this is the whole thing, it all goes back to, with Madison Towers and other things. What happened was, maybe you remember, there were a spate of robberies and assaults and things like that. So they felt that as far as those of us living in pioneer homes in some of those areas, SUNY, SU got together with the city and the Syracuse Housing Authority. Maybe you remember, they implemented a curfew down in pioneer homes. Then they went one step farther. There's 5 entrances, George. Do you remember when they blocked it off? They blocked off 4 of the entrances with the arms and things. They still have the remnants right there, right? You can go down. I've got pictures of them. We fought that. When they took that out, but some of the remnants are still there, that's when they came up with this rethinking I-81. That's the study that I sent you. That came out in 2008. If you look at all of that, there's nothing altruistic about saving us from anything. It's all about SUNY and SU.
Interesting. All right, Charles, let me find out why you want to be legislator.
Well, I want to be legislator, number one, because there's so much happening right now in this area all over Syracuse. All right. We need the best possible representation. All right. Now, as far as the county, number one, there's so many things that should be done. There's 19 towns, 15 villages. You've got Central City, Syracuse. What it is, we just had a recession. We just had this COVID pandemic. A lot of businesses closed, schools were closed. We lost a lot of tax revenue. Right now, they're talking about getting right back to normal. They shouldn't be talking about getting back to normal, the status quo. They should be doing something inspiring, saying, okay, now we have an opportunity. We can work on things like, school, long distance learning. We can talk about, internet, making sure that everybody has something consistent. We can talk about all these municipalities that were struggling. We can talk about looking at redundant services. Now that's just the county, all right? There's so many things like, employing and tax assessment, collecting, clerical work, supplies. In terms of the city, once again, the 16th district, it is the only one entirely inside the city. But why do we have the worst crime? Why do we have the worst roads? We have that sewage treatment plant that we fought. We lost that. We even appealed to the EPA, right? And lost that. So that's why I'm running. I'm running because I live here. I love the city. I love our area. I love our people. I was asked to run because they know that they will have somebody, number one, when I'm in a room with other people, I'm going to have our best interests at heart.
What? So how come? So why are you better at that than the incumbent?
Yeah, because of my history. Number one, as a business owner, veteran life experiences. I've been licensed funeral director for 28 years. All right, now that's licensed. I've worked in the business even longer. As far as relationships, personal, professional ones with other politicians, doctors, lawyers, other professionals, the experience that I have with social services, Medicaid, other groups and organizations. I've been on the board of Peace, the executive board of the NAACP, nursing homes. So yes, I believe, and other people believe, that I represent us.
Charles Garland, obviously as a mortician, and you sent me an article, and it's interesting because I saw this article. It was in Black Enterprise, and there's 2 or 3 parts to this question. One, how has how your industry has been impacted by COVID and the way you have had to handle bodies and so forth and so on. But here's the headline. I don't want to bury the lead. Black Enterprise had a story this week that talks about the number of morticians, what is it, over 30 that have died?
100, over 100, 130, and that's in a short time. Yeah.
130 morticians have died because of COVID, because of handling. Is it because of, tell me about that story.
Well, number one, let's start with the fact that we're African Americans. The comorbidities, the high risk, which brings us right back to 81, putting that traffic back into our area during a COVID pandemic when we have a new variant. So that's the start right there. I always explain to people, all right, as funeral directors and embalmers, we're trained, all right? People forget, this is a respiratory illness. It's not AIDS, something like that, bloodborne. So that, to most of us, would really concern us more. The reality is, though, is we got to be honest, George, and I'm sure you understand. When the COVID virus came out, no one knew anything about it. No, honestly, they didn't understand it. Every day we were learning something new, right? They didn't have everybody wearing masks at first and other things. So some funeral directors weren't embalming them. They were just like, either direct burial, so the main thing is, because it's a respiratory illness, the first thing, you have to take necessary actions, precautions, as soon as you receive the body or going to get it. It was interesting. I mean, I was training people in nursing homes because when somebody would die, of course, they would just be laying there, motionless in the bed.
Can you catch, this is my ignorance, so forgive me. Mm-hmm. So if someone dies of COVID, is it transmittable at death?
It's still a respiratory. Well, that's the thing. They didn't know, just like with AIDS at first, but you have to remember, it's a respiratory disease. So you still have air trapped in the orifices, trapped in your lungs. So what you do, and this is why healthcare professionals, my heart just goes out to them. All right. I had to train them when they were moving people after they died, trying to get them dressed. I explained to them, the first thing you want to do is pack their orifices. You want to take cotton, put it in their nose, put it in their mouth, because when you start moving them, they're expelling, right? And if they have COVID, then once again, nobody really knew. So it's just, err on the side of caution. But basically that's what it was. When it first came out, like anybody, reasonable, I had all the staff, we sat down, and I just explained to them. I said, look, this is a new illness, new disease. I said, I'm not going to have you work as much as I normally would, right? I said, I'm going to be making all the removals, all the embalming. I said, I want to make sure, everybody is cleaned and sanitized first. Then you can come in to work. As soon as the shots became available, we were able to get our shots. And that was something everybody agreed, because, there are anti-vaxxers out there, which is another thing. As a race, and with these morticians, they really have to do a study. Have they all been vaccinated? Because, remember, as African Americans, our group is the least tested and the least vaccinated. See? And so with that, comorbidities that we face and other risks, all right, we really have to look at that.
Charles Garland, and when I read that and I knew you were coming on, I said, I got to ask him about that because it's a sad thing. And, we still, Nicki Minaj is in the news right now because She said that
Oh,
somebody who she knew, who knew somebody who she knew in Trinidad got their ball, excuse me,
that's sterile.
got
Yeah.
their testicles.
No, yeah, yeah. It sterilized them. They became sterile.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. And so,
I heard if you drink bleach, I heard if you drink bleach, that kind of
right.
cures
And
that.
then so Joy Reid came after her. So it was a back and forth. But here's the thing, right? When it's BS, when Fox News does a whole segment praising Nicki
Yes.
Minaj, where 2 minutes ago she was the end of culture as far as they were concerned. So don't even go there. It's insidious what they try to do.
Yeah.
Well, Charles, so what's your pitch to the voters?
Pitches to the voters: vote for me, November 2nd. Look ahead to the future. All right. Politicians should inspire you. And that's what we need. We need to know that things will get better. There are options, solutions to every problem. There's solutions to crime and safety. There's solutions to education. I'm working with the schools right now. A lot of people, oh, well, yes. So that's what I would say. Vote for me and things will get better.
And how are you going to make the difference as one of 16 to solve the problems in your community?
Well, first of all, coming up with solutions. One of the things, all right, when you're having these meetings, all right, everybody's looking for initiative, the innovation. All my life, I've done that. I've always solved problems. And I truly believe when we're in a room, we're looking at, a mission objective, I do believe I can help because I always have.
Charles Garland, candidate, Onondaga County Legislature, 16th District. And Charles, we wish you luck on your run.
Well, thank you very much. November 2nd, everyone. Vote.
Inspiration for the nation.